And one of the concerns I have for the African community is the youth. I'm seeing a lot of them making bad decisions, getting into this gang stuff, this robbery. It really...
The reason why we're here, there's a lot to do. So we're going to have a series of conversations where we're going to be addressing issue by issue, push for this solidarity, networking, and strengthening our community as well. I want to acknowledge our Bronx DA who is with us today. Thank you so much. Once the elected official is here to grace our small gathering, we're expecting to have more people. We are still on African time. We're still waiting for some cool food. So this food here is fantastic, it's really good. So the food is coming as well as we wait for other people as well. But thank you so much for gracing this meeting with your presence. We do appreciate you. And can you please give us a little...
Thank you for the invitation to come. Of course, Shay Drama is a dear friend of mine because he's right. When I need something, I know to pick up the phone and call him, and he's responding. You've been to my office several times, met with my staff. I listen to the needs of the African community through you, and I respond more than, as much as I can. But like I said, I do want the representation because I know how important the African community, not the Nigerian, not the Senegal, not the African community is. So I appreciate you giving that. David, again, Vanessa is really blessed to have him. I keep telling him I'm going to steal him from her, but he's a good friend and he's keeping us connected. And this young man over here, okay, so we got this thing, right? Talking about the African Advisory Council. So I go to the meeting recently they had there in the courthouse, and he's there, and he's speaking. They gave me a chance to speak and everything, and then he tells a story about how 8 years ago he met me and I talked to him or whatever as a young person. He said, I'm where I am now because you talked to me and encouraged me, to get into leadership. I had no idea. I just try to do the best I can to do the work that I need to do to encourage young people to keep the Bronx safe. And for him to say that, Sadeki, I'm so ever grateful to hear that. And every time I see it really warms my heart to know that I was able to have that kind of impact and to see what you're doing now. And I reached out to him too. I said, look, I need people. I need people, and I want you to tell me who you recommend. And they need to go through the regular process, but you need to tell me that somebody put in, so that way I can make sure, I look into the policy. Just like you said with the ADA, I have 2 ADAs from that community now because of your calls. And that's what I'm going to do. And the other thing that I know, and I see trends and things that I have, and I see people at their worst, and I see people at their best. And one of the concerns I have for the African community is the youth. I'm seeing a lot of them making bad decisions, getting into this gang stuff, this robbery. It really concerns me because I know the parents. I know who you all are in the community. I know how hardworking you are. And I know these kids are walking the line. And it's difficult for them some of them, you come from your country, they may be born here now, they're dealing with, American kids and having to compete with them and those issues and stuff. They should be able to continue to embrace their culture and still be able to work in a community and not have to give in to the negativity that's happening in these communities. But I'm seeing it too much and it's scaring me. And I've met with parents, and I've met with you, and I told you, let's get them together. Help me make sure I reach them before they see me, all right? Because I should be the last resort, not the first resort. But this violence that is happening, these kids picking up these guns, accidental shootings I've seen, coming from the Islamic Center, the brother that was killed out there just walking by, I have those cases, so I know the hurt and the trauma that's in the African community. I want to stop it, and I need you as my partner. So that's why I continue to meet. Last year, there was an incident near one of the misjudged where it was a senior building. where some young kids, African kids, joking around or whatever, messing with some of the older people. They were very afraid, they were very scared, and it became a big issue in the community. So they said the mosque is not doing anything and it's their kids. No, just because the kid is African doesn't mean they come out of that mosque. They're members of this community. They may not even be Muslim. Not every African is Muslim. People don't understand that. So that's why it's important for you to have your groups, to talk to the community, to educate the community. That's why it's important for me to have representation in my office so that people can understand that. So that when victims of crime from the African community, they have somebody that looks like them that'll understand not only the crime, but the culture that they live in. So when that happened, you know, I went to the imam and I went to Bakari Kamara and said, look, we got to do something. And you know what? On a Sunday, they held a big meeting with all those seniors from that building and the young people from that community and the mosque. And we all sat down and talked about it. You know who was there? The mayor came. We convened it. The mayor came and walked and spoke to the seniors. My staff was there. The commissioner for Division for Youth and Community Development was there, because that's what the kids need. It shouldn't be the DA there talking about, I need to prosecute them. That's the last thing I want to do. We don't need to do that. We need to deal with the issues that they were facing. And you know what the kids said? Well, we need somewhere to, you know, there's nothing for us to do. How can we do it? I speak to the imam. He said, some of them we want to get them inside. They don't want to come into the center because some of them are not Muslim. So why do you think that just because our center is there, they want to come in? Now, that doesn't mean that they can't come in and they can't provide services there. So there's always, and you sat down with me, and Kamara sat down with me, we need places for our young people. I said, let me bring the people that can bring those resources to our community so we could do it. And we set that up. And DCYD has now met with those kids. They're bringing those services. We're addressing those issues. Those young people got to talk to the older adults that were part of this, and they resolved it. They saw now what they did, what their behavior did to scare those individuals, and those are their neighbors. And those older adults looked at those kids and said, you could be my kid. You know, you're a kid, you're all my kids. And we were able to bridge those gaps. That's the type of work that I do as a DA, not to just prosecute people. I'm not going to apologize for having to do that, because I have to do that. Because there's too many people bringing harm to our community, and guns and all of this stuff. But I also know that every individual that ends up in the criminal justice system doesn't necessarily belong there. So I have to do more to make sure that we do preventive measures, that we have community building, so that we can prevent them from coming in the first place. The homelessness, the mental illness, drug addiction, all of these things, poverty, the poor schools, all of those things that contribute to people coming into the criminal justice system. We need to deal with that on that end.
Concern that is going on in the city right now with our community and with our young people. We have a lot of successful ones, but the criminal justice system right now in the Bronx is full of our young people. I can count to you, the last 12 months, we have lost about 9 of them, senselessly killing each other. Africans, boys, and girls involved as well. All of these is part of us not organizing enough to focus on certain areas that we could give them activities and deal with them sensibly so that they would not succumb to the street. And we have gangs, rivals between Harlem and the Bronx, certain areas of the Bronx that they cannot go. And churches and mosques, that even if your mosque is in this particular neighborhood, you cannot go there because your gang rivals are there. Those are some activities also that in the process of us organizing, we need to start looking at these areas. How can we make changes there? There's a gang named ATM. I don't know, a lot of you know. But I do work with youth, and I focus on this, and I hear that even yesterday there was some, burial of someone who was senselessly killed. ATM is known as African troublemakers. These people are another gang member.
ATM. If I might interject a little bit.
I don't want to go further. I just wanted to highlight that, and in the process we can see where can we come in with that.
Once upon a time in Harlem, 2016, 2017, and talking about young gangs, Harlem, and this is no story. There was a commanding officer, Dr. Obey. She was the first African commanding officer of the 26th precinct. And I was with the DA's office. I used to work with the crime strategy unit. This woman, we really connected, very sweetheart. Now she's an assistant chief. Of course she deserved it. The woman said to me, Famo, I want you to come to my office. Come see some names here. Their names are African. Their names look like African. I know African, I'm Nigerian, but I'm looking at this Diallo, the Diawara, the Mamadi, all they come. I went to her office, she showed me their names. Gun possession, robbery. We're talking 2016, 2015, so we're not new. This whole gang thing with the African community, it's not new. We didn't do a lot, that's why it's getting worse. Because when I saw that, and Dr. Obey, Chief Obey said, listen, we need to do something. We did something. We did a lot of strategic engagement. Because listen, what D.A. Clark said is good. Because when she comes to, by the time she comes to see you, it's too late. By the time she comes to the picture, it's late. So you gotta put into place different strategies so she doesn't come to see you. Because by the time she's on the other side, when you're a victim, then she can support you. But if you're a vector, then she's not in there. So we had to do a lot. One of the things we did was to bring the family. Because my experience in this country, the families are not involved in their kids' life. And why are they not involved? Because somebody said it, Sekou said it, we all want to go back to Africa. We want to build these mansions. We're building houses there. When we live in apartments and rooms here, we're not connected with our kids' life. So what I saw was a lot of determined young boys that didn't have any role models in their life. That didn't have no role models. They come home from school, they come to their homes, maybe with the mom, or maybe the mom is not even there. Everybody's hustling because we want to go back home. That was one of the fundamental reasons for these kids failing. They're not bad kids. It was just that the family were too busy looking for money, and that's the problem. So we had to bring them together and say, hey, this is a serious problem. The DAs then came to talk to them. They gave them the choice. When you're caught with a gun, we'll put it in there. This is the number of times you go to jail for the first time. And these are your options. We have this program, the DA's office has this internship. We have this, we have that, we have that. So you choose. You want to take a knife or a gun? This is how long. They will flip the card. When they see the number, they're like, oh, wow. Yeah, mom, I want you to see that number. If he caught, even with no bullet in the gun, if he's caught with it, because these kids were fond of having guns and, robbing people, but they had to tell them that. So we've been there, we've done this before. The problem is the lack of involvement from the family. We got to get the family involved. Then you beat me to it, because I was supposed to bring my kid, but he was playing games. I like the fact that you brought this 17-year-old. You go to a lot of African meetings, you don't see them with their kids. They're leaders in the community, they never bring their kids up. And that's what the problem is. If you're a leader for your home. Fix it. Fix your home. And then you can be a leader for the community. That's what we're missing. And this meeting today is strategic in the way where we want to change the landscape. Right? We got to have people in strategic positions. Like years ago when I was at this DA's office, wallahi, I was able to help a lot of young people. Some of them today look back and say, Mahmoud is my mentor. They still come around. I wasn't looking for that. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have the opportunity. I wanted to give them the opportunity. We can use this opportunity today to do that, to reinvent that. And how we're going to do that? Number one, Musa is the lead on this effort, right? Number two, the DA was just here. I mean, one of the mistakes we all make, and I've fought people many times. We get American passport, we don't know how to vote. We think we gotta pay to register to vote. I've done a lot of voter registration with people. They got American passport in their pocket. All they want to do, I didn't go to Africa, I didn't root you, come back, go chill. That's what you got American passport for God in heaven. You never voted once? Look, we gotta be real here. I know some people are gonna be offended because I've done this many, many times. That's why I don't go to meetings anymore. Because sometimes you go to the meeting, you talk to people. Listen, you don't have to be as civically involved as us. But when it's time for election, just go out and do your voting and go back and take your American passport and go to Africa. But vote! For God in heaven's sake, vote! What is going on? Africans, the demographic here right now, this is the largest concentration of African in the whole of the United States of America. When I go to meetings and tell people that is coming from home, you're inflicting the number. No, I'm not inflicting. But they're right, because the number is not reflecting anything. So at the point, I get really, really frustrated in my own community. I've done it many times. Sat down, brought my computer. You got passport? Yeah. Since when? 10 years ago. You don't know you're supposed to be voting? You gotta be kidding me. Bring the damn thing. In 5 minutes, voter, he registered to vote. Simple as that. So the second thing is, we gotta vote. Primary is coming up. If you haven't voted early yet, go vote on the 22nd. It's so easy. Just go vote. Cast your vote so that the people can see the number. Musa said it here. The politicians, they have access to all of the data. They can see this community and say, oh, they can vote. I'll go spend my time. But they see this community of 1 million, of 100,000, they don't vote. No, I'm not going to vote. But this community of 1,000, I'll go talk to them. This 1,000 people is better than 9 million people who can vote. Yeah. So that's the strategy here. And I really want us to take advantage of that. Use any platform you have. You see, Sekou, he has a show, a podcast called Sekou Star. And I'm sure he's recording it. I don't know if it's going to get me in trouble, but that's we just got to go off and on, right? Because there's a lot of things here that we need to do. And if we don't do it, I have 4 boys, for God's sake. I swear to God, I can worry about them. I can look at them and say, damn, what are they going to be? Because we failed already. If one of my kids don't turn out to be a senator or a governor, then I fail him. I fail him because, listen, I've been hustling all my own here in the city. Well, I don't want him to hustle. I want him to make it. So I'm really fighting here. This is my home. This is my home, and that's why I'm fighting here to make sure this happens. So Musa is #1 here because Musa is a great leader. I can take that. I can give it to him. I've told people in the past, and I'm saying it in his present again. He's a leader that we should all listen to. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So we need to really readjust. One of the things I really want to say, the African town mentality needs to stop. It really needs to stop. Like, you know, when they say the meeting is at 4:30, people stay home and come at 5:30 and then drag them. See, that's what, to be honest, what David is doing now. 10, 15 years ago, when I was fresh from college, I did a lot of these things. I was a part of a lot of organizations and a lot of meetings. And at some point, it was just frustrating. Like, you know, people felt like, you know, you were doing it for your own desire. You had an agenda. There was a lot of disconnection. But, you know, we had to do what we had to do, you know. And so the first thing I want to say in terms of the definition of insanity, let's just be mindful about timing when it comes to it. We're all busy. There's no definition of how busy people can be. So at least when they say the meeting is at 4:30, you know, try to be. At least if you're 30, 15 minutes late, that makes sense. But if you're an hour late, I mean, to be honest, we can all get reason why we can be late. So that's the first thing I would say. If we want to change the mindset and the dynamic, we need to work hard to make it on time. I'm telling you. So that's very, very important for us to do here. I've been doing this thing a long time. The next thing I want to talk about